right, so this is our final week of the Pause series. And today we're going to talk about serving one another. Jesus said, if you want to be great in the kingdom, if you want a blessed life, it's actually really simple. You have to serve other people. And this isn't something that's supposed to happen like, just once in a while. It's supposed to be about a lifestyle. This is something you do all the time. You're looking for ways to serve other people. You develop this attitude, and when you do, you find that there's actually happiness. There's actually real fulfillment. You're not living to get, you're living to give. And this is the reason why a lot of people are unhappy, because they're focused on themselves. My dreams, my goals, my problems. And that kind of attitude limits us, right? We were created to give. That's the bottom line. We were created to give. And God puts people in our path so that we can bless them. It's like every morning we're supposed to be waking up and saying, okay, Lord, what's my assignment today? Show me who I'm supposed to be good to today. Odds are the person sitting right next to you is one of those people, right? It's really not that hard. The reality is we have to take a break from being us. We can't have all of our mind focused on ourselves and what's bothering us. Take a break from what we want, from what we're believing in, and from what's agitating us. God will make sure somebody's good to you too. But you've got to serve others first. It's a seed that you're sowing. Sometimes people go around and say, I'm not getting any good breaks. Nothing's cutting my way. It's always somebody else getting the break. Well, if you're not getting those good breaks, maybe you need to ask yourself, are you giving any good breaks? Are you doing something for somebody else? Am I doing what's just required, or are you going the extra mile? Because there's an order between giving and getting. You got to give first in order to get. If you want to take a look at Isaiah, it's in your order of service, Isaiah chapter 58. And we see this order laid out for us very clearly here. He writes, this is the Lord saying, Is not this the kind of fasting I have chosen? To loose the chains of injustice and to untie the cords of the yoke, to set the oppressed free and break every yoke. Is it not to share your food with the hungry and to provide the poor wanderer with shelter? When you see the naked, to clothe them and to not turn away from your own flesh and blood? This is important. Then, right? Important word there. Then your light will break forth like the dawn, and your healing will quickly appear. Then your righteousness will go before you, and the glory of the Lord will be your rear guard. Then you will call, and the Lord will answer. You will cry for help, and He will say, here am I. Do you get that? You've got to do these things first, right? You've got to share your food with the hungry first, and then these things happen. And too often we're waiting for that light to break forth. We're waiting for the healing, the promotion, the something good to happen to take us to a new level. But the question is, have we done the first part? Have we served someone else? Have we been a blessing? It's easy to forget about that part of the step, right? Friends, I'll say it again. The path to heaven is not an escalator. It's steps, it's stairs, one step at a time. And it can be doesn't have to be physical service. You don't have to be working in a soup kitchen or volunteering in a hospital or giving rides. You can do spiritual service as well. All these things that were just laid out here, they all have deeper meanings, right? Clothing the naked, right? That counts. And it counts the spiritual side too. Apocalypse tells us what the naked are. It says, the naked in the word mean those who are not in truths, and that's not in good. All right? What's the fundamental problem? They're not in truths. They don't have the information. Being ignorant of truths and yet longing for them. This is the case with those within the church when those who teach are in falsities and with those outside the church who do not have the word and consequently do not know truth and thence know nothing about the Lord. They don't have something. And guess what? All of us here, I know everybody feels like they don't know enough, but you do. You know a whole lot more from your life of being in the church than a lot of people do who haven't set foot in these grounds. You may not be feeling like a master's level theologian, but you know enough. You can clothe some naked people, spiritually and physically. You can do this. You can do this. And sometimes I think that people feel like, well, maybe this task isn't that important. Maybe it's beneath us. I don't need to do this menial labor. But the thing is, when we start getting that attitude, we start falling in this trap of losing our humility. We've got to stay humble in this endeavor. We've got to stay humble. I heard the story about a guy who was worth $9 billion. That's $9,000 million. It's a lot of stinking money. That's U.S. dollars, by the way. This guy's in heaven. He's on the other side. But he started off with nothing, and he made it big as an oil man in Texas. All right? By all accounts, he was a decent human being, helping others. And among the many things that he owned in life was this resort retreat. It was a couple's kind of spa relaxation retreat to get refreshed. And apparently one day he shows up at this place that he owns, and there was a couple that walks to the front desk. Well, the receptionist had taken a coffee break or whatever and wasn't there, so he just strolls on up, checks the couple in, grabs their bags, carries them in the room, gets them all set up, does everything just as he worked there. The woman reaches into her pocket, gives him a $5 tip. This is a guy who had $9 billion. He didn't need a $5 tip. The fact of the matter was, he didn't say any of that. He just kindly accepted and rolled on. And what I love about this story is that despite all the money he had, it wasn't beneath him to do this menial task of carrying some luggage up to a room. Despite how important as he was to all those employees and shareholders and investors, it wasn't beneath him to take somebody's payment, process it all, give him a key, carry him upstairs. He was the lowest man on the totem pole for that 15 minutes. Right? That's what the Lord wants from us, to serve other people. We've all been blessed. We've all been blessed. We've got to keep on staying humble despite all the blessings. And this is an important lesson we see illustrated in the book of David. The book of Samuel, about the story of David. If you're familiar with the book of Samuel, one of the markers, at least for me, is the David and Goliath story is chapter 17, first book of Samuel 17. The previous chapter, 1 Samuel 16, David is anointed king. Samuel comes along. Saul's already been misbehaving, so Samuel comes along, doesn't choose any of David's older brothers, pulls David out in the field, says, yep, this is the one, anoints him in front of everybody. David is anointed king. But what happens in 17 is the big fight between Goliath. And how does he get to that spot? Look at what it says here, verses 16 to 20. The Philistine drew near and presented himself 40 days, morning and evening. Then Jesse said to his son David, take now for your brothers an ephah of this dried grain and these 10 loaves, and run to your brothers at the camp, and carry these 10 cheeses to the captain of their 1,000, and see how your brothers fare, and then bring back news of them. Now Saul and they and all the men were in Israel were fighting in the valley of Elah, fighting with the Philistines. So David rose early in the morning, left the sheep with the keeper, and took the things and went as Jesse commanded him. It would have been very easy for David to say, hey, Dad, I'm not an errand boy. I'm not a gopher. I'm the king. You just saw it. Samuel himself just came here and anointed me king. I'm not carrying lunch for my ungrateful brothers out to the battlefield. No thanks. I'm too important. Too important. They should be bringing me food. But that's not what happened, is it? David was destined to do great things. David was destined to go fight Goliath. But the Lord had to get David to the battlefield first. And what did he have him do to get there? Take lunch for his brothers. Take some cheese for the commanders. Right? He could have been too proud to do a small thing. But it's that small thing that led him to his greatness. If he hadn't been willing to serve in a small area, he would have never reached his destiny. Right? He wouldn't have been able to fight Goliath because he would have been out in the field tending to the sheep. Likewise, we have to be willing to do things that we feel are insignificant and beneath us. Things that we think, oh, gee, I'm just too important for that. David could have said, well, I should be meeting with the military leaders. I should be doing these important things. I'm the king. The Lord's clearly on my side. What am I doing out in the field? No. Makes you wonder sometimes, doesn't it? You think about this, you go, well, gee, could I have a next big thing in my life if I just don't put off the people around me? Right? This is real. Sometimes the Lord asks us to do small things, and our purpose could be waiting behind that small things. We were created to make somebody else's life better. Somebody needs what you have. Somebody needs you to take them lunch. Somebody needs you to answer the phone. Right? And the thing is, when you do these small things, you win. This is what we forget this. We feel like, oh, well, but I'm giving, therefore I'm losing. But no, when you give, you get. We've all had the experience of a busy day where you get all sorts of things done. You did all your work, you helped in the yard, you got your house clean, lots of stuff happened, and you feel exhausted at the end of the day, and you go, whew, I'm satisfied. I got a lot done. Well, the same thing is true spiritually as well. When you give, you have that sense of satisfaction. It's spiritual food, if you will. And we need that spiritual food. You can take a look at the readings from John chapter 4. It's a familiar story where Jesus is talking to a woman at the well. But we're really talking about the beginning and end of that story. Because it says, Jesus came to a city of Samaria, which is called Sychar, near the plot of ground that Jacob gave to his son Joseph. Now Jacob's well was there. Jesus, therefore, being wearied from his journey, sat thus by the well. It was about the 6th hour. A woman of Samaria came to draw water, and Jesus said to her, "Give me a drink." For his disciples had gone away into the city to buy food. Okay, so we're establishing here that Jesus is weary, he's thirsty, and his disciples are off to go get food. All right? And then we have this interaction between Jesus and the woman where he teaches her about her life, tells her all who she is and where she's going, sets her all up, and she's astonished and she's converted, saying, "You are the Christ." Then at the end of the story, verse 28, the woman then left her water pot, went her way into the city, and said to the men, "Come, see a man who told me all things I ever did. Could this be the Christ?" Then they went out of the city and came to him. In the meantime, his disciples urged him, saying, "Rabbi, eat." But he said to them, "I have food to eat, of which you do not know." Therefore the disciples said to one another, "Has anyone brought him anything to eat?" Jesus said, "My food is to do the will of him who sent me, and to finish his work." Hungry before, and what's he doing? He's clothing the naked, right? He's giving truths to someone who doesn't have them. He's feeding the hungry. And as a result, he's saying, the disciples come back saying, "All right, ready, it's time to eat. We got the stuff." And he says, "Oh, I have food to eat, but you don't know. I was just working. I was just given, and now I'm fulfilled." What's his food? Oh, doing the work of the Lord. He wasn't hungry anymore. Sitting by the well, refreshed and at peace. This, of course, messes with the disciples' head because they think, oh, somebody must have fed them, right? It's like, no, I'm good. I did the Lord's work. My peace, my joy, my satisfaction comes when I serve others. This is the same thing, we experience on a physical level, right? You're busy, you work all day, you feel good. Well, guess what? You're busy and you help somebody all day, you feel good, right? Why is it? Because you're doing the will of the Lord. The Lord's working through you. This is a really important point. If you want to be happy, there's no more surefire way to do it than to be nice to other people, to help them out. This is heavenly happiness, folks. This is the big time. This isn't earthly happiness. This is heavenly happiness. This is described as a blissful state. So when you want to be happy, and you think, oh, gee, I'm not happy. How do you do it? There's no more surefire way than to serve other people. We get a nice reading in Secrets of Heaven that talks to us about this, saying how good this is. It says a lot of people can't understand it. The people who have a memory knowledge of spiritual teachings but are devoid of a life of charity, they cannot know of the existence of any other delight than that which results from having position over others. And since that delight alone occupies their mind and constitutes the whole of their life, therefore they do not have any knowledge at all of the heavenly delight which results from humility and the affection for serving others. That is, they do not know the delight that accompanies love to the Lord and charity towards the neighbor, and the consequent bliss and happiness. Oh, why don't they know these things? Because they don't believe in them, right? The reason why the Lord adapted what he said about least becoming great in heaven, about what he had to say to their imperfect outlook, was so that they could be aroused and led on to good, to learn it, to teach it, and to do it. And yet he does teach what greatness and position actually are in heaven. These and other ideas like them belong to the lower degree of the appearance of truth, for in relation to others, those in heaven are made great and are given positions, power, and authority over others. In that one single angel is more powerful than 10,000 spirits in hell, yet not from himself, but from the Lord. And he that has power from the Lord, in the measure that he believes and he can achieve nothing from himself, and is accordingly the least. And he's able to have such belief in the measure that humility and affection for serving others exist in him, that is, insofar as the good that is essentially the love of the Lord and charity towards the neighbor is present in him. You want to be great? Be the least. You want to be happy? Give other people happiness. It's really not that complicated. It's counterintuitive sometimes to us, but it's the truth. Heaven exists or consists in serving others for the sake of their happiness. That's it, right? We all want to get there. That's where happiness is. We all want to get there. And so I want to close, this series on this sermon with this little story I came across. I heard about this older missionary couple. This is a story from, it must be about pushing 100 years ago now. They'd served over in Africa for about 60 years, helping less fortunate people, giving their whole life to people and doing a lot of good works. Well, they were on their way home to New York City via a ship. And it just so happened they were on the same ship with then former President Teddy Roosevelt. He was returning home from one of his big hunting trips. And so the ship pulls up into New York City, and there was all this fanfare, a band playing, the mayor and all these dignitaries line up. Here comes President Roosevelt, balloons in the air, confetti falling down. And when the crowd saw Roosevelt step off the boat, they began to cheer. Thousands and thousands of them waving, cheering, trying to get a picture. The missionary, he says to his wife, it's like, this doesn't seem right. We've given our whole life the last 60 years trying to help other people, to give, to serve, to make a difference. Roosevelt goes on vacation killing animals, and the whole world welcomes him home. Nobody even knows we're here. And they got off the ship very discouraged. But the whole point of this program is what? Pause. Pause. Make space for God. Think about why we were put here. Think about the way the Lord speaks to us. Think of the way the Lord's present in our life, the way He gets us to do things and the things He does for us. To pause. Because we all have those moments of chatter, don't we? It doesn't seem right. It doesn't seem fair. I thought I was doing something important, but nobody's noticing. I'm helping out. Nobody seems to care. Nobody's even saying hello. It can be very easy to let those hells just chatter away. Doesn't seem fair. But what this guy does is he pauses. He pauses. He goes home that night and he prays. He says, Lord, I don't understand it. He goes on vacation, comes home to the fanfare of the world, and we come home, nobody says anything to us. And he says, as he's finishing up his praying, that he heard the Lord speak to him. And the Lord says, son, it's because you're not home yet. You're not home yet. You will hear a big band playing for you like you've never heard before. It'll be the angels, and all of the heavens will welcome you home. Many of us have been faithful, have given, have served, and volunteered. You should be encouraged today. You know, the Lord doesn't miss any of it. Nothing you've done has been missed. Nothing you've done has been shuffled off into nothingness. You just got to develop this lifestyle of pausing, making space for the Lord in your life, so that when the moment comes, when you're discouraged and you feel like nothing's happening, nothing did happen, nothing will happen, you can take this simple lesson. Pause. Make space for the Lord, and He'll give you the answer you've been looking for. And He will welcome you home at some point. Amen.